Hello everyone, welcome back to a new episode of Road to Rank 1. Today our first opponent is Shameless, who immediately asks if this is the road to 1, and I say si, that means yes in French. Studied French for 4 years when I was in high school, so I know a fair amount about the language. Decide to, rather than open up with a low ground expansion, to open up with a high ground expansion. I want to play it semi-safe, or at least I want to feel more in control. My opponent is a 5.8k player, and don't want to lose too many points. I think I'm singing along with a song in my head or something. Or maybe I said I'm an idiot out loud, not quite sure why my mouth was moving there. We open up with Gateway first, and here I make the mistake of not scouting. A little bit of a lack of focus, I think. And rather than immediately sending out a scout, I decided to just scout after the second gateway, which means that all of a sudden there's the possibility for me to proxy something, and that's exactly what I'm going to be doing this game. This is a very good map for proxies, because it's genuinely quite difficult to scout all the proxy locations with your stalkers or with a probe. So if you want a proxy, this is a pretty darn good map for it. Same with Glittering Ashes, also a pretty fine map for it. Our opponent is scouting after Gateway, and he faked a cannon rush. I smiled a little bit, because it's obvious to me that this guy has been watching my videos and got this cannon position from me. So I decided, you know what, if this guy wants to pretend to cannon rush me, then I can also just proxy robo him, and that's exactly what I'm gonna be doing here. I'm like, okay, you fake a cannon rush, I proxy robo you. You ask for it. And that is exactly what's going to happen here. He accidentally mined some minerals from my patches, which means that now the only way to harass is by attacking my probes to try and deny some mining. It's most of the time not quite as effective because there's a long downtime in which you can do that. I throw down the robotics facility, start a zealot, then start a stalker on my second gateway, and I have stalker, delayed warp gate. I pretend to build a worker even though I don't really want to build a worker. And I start my warp gate the moment gas becomes available. Third pylon, make sure I don't get supply blocked. I cancelled my probe in front of him, and that surprised me a little bit. Here, for a second, I believed that he might have been going for a proxy himself with like another probe. But then I saw he actually chrono boost his first stalker. I wanted to see a second unit, and I saw an opportunity to block his stalker out for a bit to check what his second unit was. He decided to show me his second unit. Now I'm looking for his probe. And I didn't want to attack the pylon before the pylon finished, because I want to grab that pylon for free, basically. That's going to give me 100 minerals. Now, this does allow my opponent, if he finds my robotics facility, to most likely kill that pylon. Because I'm not across the map with my stalkers to deny that. So, you could say that pylon does something for him. I played a little bit risky, and it might pay off at this point. I'm not quite sure. I feel like this immortal will get out. I chrono boost the second time, and I already get another pylon up. But of course, it's completely possible that he will take out the pylon. Stalker 3 and 4 arrive. I don't get the first stalker, but the second stalker will go down. So far he has killed a pylon. I have killed a pylon. I have killed a stalker, and he's killed nothing of my units yet. I also scouted a pylon on the minimap. And I think I might just get this stalker. No, I decided to not go up here with everything, as that battery is about to finish. And I send the probe over to repower my robotics facility once again. My warp gate is about to finish up. And so far I'm not feeling too bad in the game, except of course for the fact that my robotics facility is pretty delayed. I start attacking this pylon as he warps in a gateway. So right now in my head I'm thinking, okay, this could either be, it could be DT, but it's a little bit too obvious of a position for DT. Usually you hide it more in the corners. So in my mind I'm thinking it's most likely Blink from my opponent. And I want to throw down my own Twilight Council as a response to that. Chrono boost my second Immortal. I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do. I could have gone for a Prism here, I could have gone for an Observer here. And I went for an Immortal. Like I said, I'm just not sure if this is the correct call. Thinking back, I didn't see a Twilight Council as my probe died in his main base at about, what was it, 235. So I actually think it would have been completely fine for me here to go straight into Prism, because Blink wouldn't have been done yet. That way I can attack the gateway on the high ground and just put some pressure on in general. Kind of afraid of moving there now with my main army, because I don't really have vision and I don't have a Prism to micro, so that makes these fights pretty tricky at times. This right side pylon scares me a little bit, and I'm actually kind of afraid that it's going to be a Dark Shrine and DT's walking in. So even though this seems useless, I'm just checking the ground right now to make sure that there's not going to be any Dark Templar shimmers coming around. I send in a hallucination to get a scout. It gets killed immediately by his stalkers. I decide to warp in a little more. So far I am ahead in that I killed more than he has killed, and my army composition is slightly better. But I did just invest into a Twilight Council that hasn't produced any results for me yet. So although I'm comfortable fighting on my side of the map or close to my robotics facility, a little bit further away from his reinforcements, I am a little bit afraid as well of fighting near his base. At this point I'm starting to realize that I probably should have saved one extra chrono, because I'm afraid of some type of counterattack, like either adepts or stalkers. And as I'm thinking about it, and as I'm mentioning it to you guys, it comes into my main base. And if this was 4 stalkers, it probably would have been fine. But this is a very large amount of stalkers. There's too many units at home for him, in combination with the battery, for me to really do anything. And I'm about, what, 4 or 5 seconds away from getting that recall. So now I have the recall. I recall home. I lost a bunch of probes, but because I did build too many probes on purpose, I will be kind of fine, because I wanted to transition eventually. I see my opponent still completely lacking a third base at this point, or a natural base, excuse me. And I didn't actually notice this probe move out. If I would have noticed that probe move out, that would have perhaps saved me a little bit of trouble later on in the game, because that probe could be used for potentially proxying a pylon to get a Dark Shrine, could be used for proxying a Nexus, or just for proxying a gateway so he can attack me quicker. All of these are possibilities. Me not realizing that there's a probe out is actually quite bad. I see a 4 stalker warp in, so I'm pretty sure at this point that he doesn't have like a hidden Nexus, but later on I'm still gonna scout for it just to be sure. DTs are still a real possibility for me, in that I believe that, or well, in my mind there's still a real possibility for him. I still believe that he might be getting Dark Templar at some point. I'm getting my own Dark Templar right now, because I realize he doesn't have a robotics facility, and I have a feeling that I'm going to get contained at this point. I was afraid there might be a gateway on my side of the map. He obviously can't walk up the ramp, but I just was a little bit afraid of there perhaps being I don't know, something here. Now my Dark Shrine is about to finish up, and I decide to send my Prism to the low ground to warp in 1 or 2 Dark Templars, send it to the other side of the map. I do see the Robo has started. I'm considering not getting my second DT, as he almost scouts me, and I think if he was paying attention, it probably was on the edge of his vision, and he also could have potentially seen the shimmering of the Dark Templars, of course. So, as I see no warp in there, and I see no full wall being created by him, I believe he didn't see it. So what I want to do right now is I want to tax his attention in this area while I attack with my DTs. Now this isn't perfectly, what do you call it? It isn't perfectly synced, but I am gonna grab a couple of stalkers, because right now he's busy responding to this threat. I wanted to go for the Robo Snipe, and perhaps that was a little bit greedy. I was hoping he wouldn't start the Observer immediately. As a result, I don't kill a lot of workers, so I went for a risky play. It didn't pay off. I lose 1 DT, and now I realize that he already has charge as well. So a move out that I perhaps could have done is not going to be possible, because Chartles absolutely destroy Immortals, because they tank the shots of the Immortals, and Immortals don't have extra damage against Zealots. So my army is probably just slightly weaker than his at this point. I'm trying to figure out if he has an army here, or if he has a pylon here, and kind of want to kill that. I'm sending my DT out, it's going to spot a pylon here. Once again, the thought of that there might be a Dark Shrine for him crosses my mind. And I get a robotics facility, even though I already have 2 observers. I just want to be capable of producing more observers in case I lose 1 or 2. I scout, I see the lack of a Nexus, but I also see that there's only 8 workers mining here. I kind of double check that. Now I know for sure that there is a proxy Nexus, because I know I didn't kill a lot of workers. I knew there was about 17, 18 workers there earlier. Where did they go? So I'm gonna go spot for proxy Nexi. Now I see, hey, proxy Nexi, or well, proxy Nexus. He's over here, I kill 4 workers, and then I get blasted, but that functioned as a scout as well as a little bit of a harass. I'm not completely desperate at this point, in that I know that he doesn't have too many workers. The gases weren't saturated, first of all, on that base, which makes me happy. And his army does look bigger than mine, so I decided rather than trying to fight him in a Charged Archon battle, I'm just gonna be going straight for a Disruptor. Double Robo Disruptor off of 4 gates. I skip my Forge, at least for a little bit, because if you're playing Disruptors, your upgrades don't actually matter too much. It's obviously nice to have upgrades for your Stalker, so they can snipe something every now and then. And if you ever have to deal with a run-by, it's also big. But in my mind, the main thing I want to do right now is survive and get into Disruptors. I see a Templar Archives being built by him. That actually kind of does calm my mind on the eventual DTs that he could be building otherwise. I see a Forge. So at this point, I'm expecting one of 2 things. Either a +2 attack, as I'm trying to take my... or a +1 attack as I'm trying to take my 3rd base. Or a +2 attack as I'm trying to take my 4th. If he attacks by the time I want to take my 4th, he will be too late, as I'm going to have 8, 9, maybe even 10 Disruptors at that point. So, the scenario I'm the most afraid of is going to be an early attack. So I'm trying to establish a little bit of map vision for myself. With this Hallucination, DT on the left side, Observer in the middle. I see that he's getting a 3rd base as well. And I see that his army is still at home, which makes me very happy. But there's a little bit of a tell here as well, and that's the fact that he's building a cannon. He has more gateway units. He technically could take map vision, or map control. Cannons only make sense if he wants to move out at this point for him. Otherwise they're a waste of money and just a delay for further infrastructure, whether that be extra gateways or a nexus. So that cannon is actually telling me that he most likely wants to move out pretty quickly, rather than waiting for +2. I decide to put my DT behind his natural mineral line. So when he does end up moving out, that hopefully I can deal a little bit of damage. I also hope he doesn't build a cannon there. Sometimes though what people do is they build a cannon in front of that natural location, so it kind of shuts off DTs from walking into the main or into the natural. Of course that doesn't work if the DT is already hiding behind that base, like I'm doing right here. So I'm just scouting with my Hallucination, trying to figure out, hey, where are you at, buddy? I see a Zealot moving forward, and I immediately know, okay, he's most likely moving out. So I immediately go in with my dude, and I really need to get some map vision. I need to know where my opponent is coming from. I get a cannon in my main base in case the prism goes there, and I just want to be as safe as possible here. Keep the Disruptors a little bit in the back, get a pylon on that left side, and then see where it's coming from. I don't see him on the map, which confuses me. And then I see that my probe actually gets slaughtered. And I'm like, hey, that means that you're coming from the left side. He tried to surprise me, but you can't surprise a man who has 20/20 vision. And my vision is absolutely fabulous. First Disruptor shot kind of whiffs, but all of these Disruptor shots are pretty good. My army is still weak, and he has +1, so I'm not entirely sure if I'm winning. So I decide rather than risking it, I'm just going to snipe his Observer and actually warp in a couple of DTs. And as you can see, with another warp in, the game becomes very, very close here for me. He's going to be able to take out a couple of these workers. Sadly for him, Disruptors hit big, and the DTs actually help me to survive. I have a bunch of money in the bank, mainly because I don't have production, but also because I haven't been producing as much with the production that I do have. DTs are going to help me clean this up. Final Disruptor shot kills 3 of those Zealots, and at this point he calls GG as he loses the game, and I win my game number 1. I'm pretty happy with that. It was a little bit closer than I ideally would have thought it was. And yeah, well, it wasn't great. Well, straight into the second game here. We have CuKu, or CuKu. I'm never quite sure what it is. But I believe he's called CuKu. And against CuKu, I don't really struggle too much usually. But he does have a bunch of all-ins that are quite powerful. He has some tank marine all-ins, he has some pretty decent 3-Rex execution, and he has a tight armory mine drop as well, in which the mines become invisible. My goal, however, is to make maybe some invisible units myself this game, or perhaps go for some Stargate. I'm not quite sure. And I think at this point I decide I'm just gonna scout around my base and do something like a Stargate opener. Don't scout with my probe across the map. Now, This gives me more money, and as most of you probably have figured out at this point in your life, more money is better than less money. Not only in StarCraft 2, but also just in general. It's a rule that is good to follow. And I decided to go for a 19 Nexus. This still allows me to get a quick cybernetic score while also getting a quick Nexus, but it cuts 1 probe. So it's slightly less economical than a 20 Nexus, but you just have a faster cyber core. So the standard core first timing is 124. This is 5 seconds later than that because you built a Nexus before it. The standard core after Nexus before core timing is about 133, 134. So this is 5 seconds faster than that. This is a nice middle of the road type of build in which you have really the best of both worlds. And if there's no proxy close by, most of the time you're just going to be at a better spot than you usually would have been with anything else. So it's a build I really do enjoy playing, and I think it's a build that's very good. As I said, my plan is Stargate, and when I have a plan I tend to follow it, unless I don't follow it, and then I'll do something random. But this time I'm actually going to get a Stargate at home. That's what I decide to do. I want to play some oracles here. Send out my first adept as well. And here I noticed that he mined the minerals. As you can see in my face, I'm confused by that, because who in their right mind would want the adept to cross the map quicker? So I'm thinking right now maybe he's trying to sneak by marines, maybe he's going for reactor first. Here I checked to make sure that the other minerals weren't taken. Of course you can mine those out with a single SCV. I killed the SCV building the CC, and I'm surprised there's nothing downstairs. I see 2 marines. I'm like, okay, this looks like a reactor first. But with a reactor first, you would have already had more marines. So what in the world is going on here? And then in my main base, I see what's going on. As 2 Reapers show up. I do manage to kill the 2 marines here. And I end up losing, I believe, 3 probes. Or 2 probes. I kill 2 marines and 1 SCV on the other side total so far. So not the worst start. Also not the greatest start though, honestly. Yeah, I lose a little bit of mining. I don't really mind his build. I think it's quite cool even. A cute little timing, but he did lose a lot of units here. And if you're playing against Stargate, that often is an issue. So even though the eco damage and the overall resources lost right now is in his favor, I'm gonna be capable of kind of changing that around. I'm already denying his natural from mining. I'm gonna maybe even be allowed to do some damage with the Oracle. So I wait with the Oracle. I don't want to go in yet. I now see him push away my units on the low ground, and I'm like, hey, that was cool. But if all your units are on the low ground, guess what's gonna happen in your main base? And well, this happens in your main base. I end up killing 4 or 5 SCVs. Maybe even 6. Oh, I didn't quite target properly there, so I get 5 SCVs. I think I decide to get another Oracle at this point and a Twilight Council. I want to get some batteries, as I have spotted the 3 racks. And against 3 racks, there really is only a single option. And that is to get batteries everywhere when you're playing a multiple Oracle opener. Otherwise, you'll just lose. I do have 3 gateways. I'm very happy with that. I want to continue complete gateway production and continue my worker production as well. As you can see, I cut a couple of workers here for no real reason. That was bad. I'm also possibly becoming supply block again. So I quickly need to build another pylon. My oracles want to go back in, as I want him to stay at home for as long as I can force him to stay home. So I decided to kill a couple of workers. I could have gone for the turret here, or for the worker that was building the turret, and probably would have been better. But I didn't, and thus it wasn't better. Gonna send out a probe to scout on the map, see if any units are on the way. I obviously know that units are on the way, I just want to know where they're coming from. I see he has a bunch of SCVs here as well, so I decide, well, I just killed freaking 15 workers or something like that. And I see you have SCVs over here, so I can pull my own probes, at least the tank, as long as your SCVs are alive. GG gets called, and I win this game, honestly, relatively easily. 79 supply against 34, and we immediately decide to search the next one. And boom! Once again, we're playing against CuKu. This time it's going to be on 2000 atmospheres. 2000 atmospheres is a larger map, which tends to be better for Protoss. The larger map, the better for TOS. The smaller the map, the earlier the Terran attacks will hit, and the faster TOS needs to respond. They need to have less economy, etc., etc. Wanna stack up these workers as well as I can. And this time around, I decide to go for a blink build. But a blink build with 2 adepts first. That's going to be my goal. So I want to scout around still for proxies. And I'm going to scout around for an eBay as well at some point. But that is my entire plan here. It's going to be a larger map. I'm like, my blink will have a little more time. I think this is going to be fun to play. And I make sure that there's no proxies over here. Yeah, CuKu is a pretty decent player. I forget where he's from right now, but he's kind of young. I think he's like 19, 18 or 17. I don't know. He's one of them young ones, and he is improving pretty quickly. Like I think he gained about 200 MMR in the past 6 months, which is very big if you're at 5'8". Going to 5'8 to 6k in half a year is really not bad. It's quite impressive even. And I'm curious to see where he's going to stop rising, you know, if he's gonna keep getting better and better. I checked the main base here to make sure that an orbital was building. And right now I'm very surprised because the command center didn't go down at 138, even though my probe wasn't in time to block. So I want to check if it's a marine. I saw the orbital. I'm like, where did your money go? And I'm trying to put 1 and 1 together, and all I'm getting is 3. Right now I'm like 1 and 1, 4. 1 and 1. What was that again? 6. I can't seem to put 1 and 1 together whatsoever here. Like I'm thinking perhaps there's a barracks proxied, but I'm not quite sure. I just don't quite see what's going on here. So I just want to see if he's getting a Reaper or not, because if he has a Reaper, then he can't have anything proxied, right? Like you can't play Proxy Marauder with a Reaper. And now when I see this movement, I know, he has a bunker in my natural, and because I opened 2 adepts, this actually is really bad for me, because adepts kind of suck against bunkers, because it's difficult for them to always stay in range of the battery. This is really painful when this happens, and I'm gonna lose a lot of mining on my natural, because I need to oversaturate my main base right now. I'm considering sending my adept out. I decide not to do it in the end. I'm gonna start attacking the bunker. I have 1 battery on the way, and I'm planning on using a super battery as well. That way I can at least get some money going. It's gonna ruin my build order though, because I'm gonna have way less money than I usually have. My battery placement is pretty optimal, and it's quite good. I want to build a gateway here, but I think I end up not doing it, because I'm busy targeting. And that's obviously not ideal either. So yeah, pretty sloppy play honestly so far out of me. Trying to target that SCV. I lose 1 probe here as well. He should probably be targeting my probes rather than my adepts, but he keeps going for adepts. And eventually I guess I do get out of this crappy situation, but I don't have a second gate, I don't have a robo. So rather than pretending like I do have these things, I'm just gonna get a very fast 3rd base. Get a pylon as well here. And then start getting my infrastructure. I'm oversaturated in the main base still. Very sloppy start here for me. And on top of that, I have absolutely 0 idea what my opponent is doing. I have no map vision. I wasn't allowed to scout with the adept. And all of this just freaking sucks. Gonna get a gateway here. And I'm gonna send one of my adepts across the map, because god, I need to know what's going on. Decide to warp in 1 more stalker. And as I walk into my main base looking for the potential mine drop, throw down a forge, continue worker production, and then I see something in the corner of my eye, and that's this Hellion drop. I get insanely lucky here. Just so insanely lucky. My units were actually out of position. They probably should have been at the ramp rather than where they are right now. I decided to go for a full wall because there's 2 more Hellions coming in. I'm spreading stalkers in my main to make sure that I can see where my opponent is coming from, but yeah. I just got really lucky. My blink has finished, so I can go for the Hellions right now. I can blink forward and actually not take too many losses. So I'm kind of splitting my workers here, making sure I don't lose too many. I see his 2 Hellions at the front are not going to be capable of doing anything either. I don't quite get that medevac, which is kind of annoying. But I have a 3rd base done. He invested a lot into those Hellions, which, you know, I'm kind of happy with. Because they didn't do much of anything. I decided to go for a Dark Shrine. Because it's kind of unlikely for people to go Hellion, 6 Hellion drop into Raven. And even if he does, I feel like I would be capable of kind of running around him. They're kind of going... if he moves out, I just go in with the DTs afterwards. Because I'm going to be capable of getting some type of vision. Trying to kill these remaining Hellions and the Reaper on the map. Mainly to deny scouting, so my Dark Shrine can go up. I don't quite get it. And I decided to just send my Stalkers back home. I could have kept them on the other side of the map, but I didn't do it. I'm lacking space for my buildings, so I throw my 3rd and 4th gateway down at the 3rd base. Get a battery. And I think at this point I decide that rather than going very high into my gateway count, I just want to get as many units as I can on a low gateway count and hope to win the game with the DT. So that's kind of the plan here. I'm moving in. Marines obviously have negative DPS against Stalkers, especially if they're not stimmed. So all of that looks pretty tight. Observers moving across the map, and I decide to get some vision on the map as well, so the Reaper can sneak by. I don't want him to be capable of finding my my Dark Shrine. That's a very important structure for me. I'm also getting a couple of pylons spread across the map to make sure that I know what's going on at all times. A battery in the main base. Or sorry, a cannon in the main base and a 2nd pylon, so I can build a battery later on. I saw the Reaper move, and I want to give it a warm welcome. That's exactly what I'm going to try to do here. He decides to walk into my 3rd base. I'm happy with that, because it means he's not going to scout the Dark Shrine. At this point, I probably could have already built a Robo Bay, or added 2 extra gateways. But I'm not doing any of these things. Rather, I'm waiting for him to move out. Now I'm going to get 4 gateways. I really thought he was going to move out at like a little bit earlier, honestly, but as he didn't, I have to send my units at this point. My DTs. At least that's what I think. He's still staying at home. And right now I realized that 2 medevacs were missing, but it didn't really register in my head. So I blink back and I see his 2 unloaded medevacs. I move the DTs a little down. I lose 2 Stalkers here. And I also get the confirmation that he is indeed moving out. So I decide, you know what? I think I can just go in with my DTs. I'm kind of waiting for him to throw down that mule, but then I'm like, maybe he'll never throw down that mule. So I decide to send my DTs in. He's gonna try to take out the tower that I have there, and that's exactly what he's gonna end up doing. I throw down a Robo Bay, all that good jazz. My army is moving into position to potentially fight him. Looking for some damage with my Zealot. And my DTs are looking for damage as well. I see his main army is over there. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I kind of know what he's doing. So I'm trying to get more vision right now. And I know he's dealing with this DT drop. At the same time, I kind of start moving towards my natural. In case a drop like this happens, I hopefully have something to deal with it. So I pull away my workers. Try to get in here. I know he doesn't have any scans. Or shouldn't really have any scans. Because I get a pretty nice cleanup. However, at the same time, I'm not paying attention at my 3rd base. And I get the surprise of a lifetime. As 4 mines explode all over my mineral line. I believe they took out 9, 10 workers. And all of a sudden my economic position isn't all that hot. At the same time, I see this DT got 12 kills. So it's not like it's the worst thing in the world. I actually do believe at this point that I can move out. Or at least I hope that I can move out. I want to clear this thing. And I get it. That's a really big deal. Because that was basically 10 supply that he just lost. Because he wasn't paying attention. That's nice for me. He manages to get out with the medevacs. And I decide to go chase him a little bit on the map. I have pretty decent upgrades. I think I almost have +2 at this point. And I think I have +2 at this point. I'm just going to send them out on the map to try and fight a little army. Get a couple of extra zealots there as well. And I also want to attack at the same time. So here I spot his medevacs. I'm going to kill 1 medevac for free. And at the same time I'm moving in. So I'm just going to send a couple of zealots to chase some of his SCVs. At the same time, I force field for a safe retreat. And at home, I'm gonna be hopefully capable of building Colossi. There's my first Colossi. Here comes a base. And a second robotics facility would not really be a luxury at this point. It'd be more like soap, you know? Back in the day, people thought soap was a luxury. Just like I thought at the start of this game, 3 minutes in, that if I would get double robos, that would be a luxury. But at this point, it's kind of expected that everyone uses soap and everyone has soap. And it's the same now. 10 minutes into the game, you're kind of expected to have 2 robotics facilities. And the fact that I don't have them yet is kind of bad. I'm gonna, because it delays my disruptor production. It's probably the most important thing that you have in PvT to deal with these large bio armies. I decided to send out a bit of a zealot run by. I have full vision of his army movement, so I'm just gonna mess him around for a bit. I get a couple of sentries so I can defend the ramp if he decides to go for a base trade, but I immediately see him move back. I cancel his fort and I can just go home. I mean, I'm gonna be up a base. I'm getting better tech than my opponent, which is important. And on top of that, my upgrades keep going. I have 2 forges at this point. My run by on the left side didn't get exposed either. I killed the marine and sent it back rather than sending it in. And I guess the one bad thing is that I ended up spending 300 gas on 3 extra sentries that I don't really need, but rather be safe than sorry. So I don't even mind it. Oh, I see this thing come in. I do have a Colossi out here. I think he could have dropped here, but he decided not to. Instead, he's just going to put his medevac in the dead space. He pauses the game and will return after the pause. So we're back, and thought my sound wasn't working, so I turned on my sound a little bit. Good moves, Kevin. I have a run-by setup here, and at this point I'm like, hey, why don't I actually have vision on that far right side tower, as it becomes pretty important. So I'm sending a couple of units there. Then I realize I already have a DT there. I hit his marine, and then my DT walks away. I'm not quite sure why he does that. Oh, there was a second marine. I didn't even realize that in the game. I thought the marine just walked away, and that's why I didn't do anything. I want to move across the map, but I don't actually want to fight. So this is what I like to call dancing. Now, in real life, if you've ever seen me in a club or anywhere else, and I'm dancing, it's not a very pretty sight. However, in StarCraft 2, when I'm playing against Terran, I think my dancing skills are pretty okay. And what I mean with dancing is that I move forward, he moves forward, I move back, and I shoot a zoning disruptor. I would not recommend throwing a grenade in your salsa class, but in PvT it is quite useful to have something to zone out your dancing partner, which in this case is going to be the Terran. You're just gonna dance back and forth with force field, colossi and disruptors, and as you're dancing, you're using DTs to snipe outside bases. This is basically the plan in PvT. This is what you want to be doing as a Protoss player. So you increase the amount of disruptors that you have, and every single time you throw a disruptor shot, you either zone your opponent out, or you get a little bit of damage. So it's a win-win. As long as you're not truly fighting, most of the time you're winning. The way that Terran wins is by fighting. In a straight-up fight, Protoss almost always loses because the Protoss army is pretty crap, honestly, especially after it gets EMP'd. So you need to elongate the battle as long as possible. And that's my plan here. So I blink forward, I try to get a couple of these Vikings going, I shoot one of these, boom! Huge disruptor hit. I lose my DTs like an idiot, because I decided to send them back in when I didn't have blink available. I get a couple more of these Vikings as well. Now, killing Vikings is great for 2 reasons. First reason is your Colossi stay alive for longer. Second reason is, as long as he's rebuilding Vikings, he isn't building Liberators. And Liberators are really what stops the dance, you know? That's when the music stops. But as long as the music plays, you have to keep dancing. And at this point, the music definitely is still playing. And thus, I'm on the dance floor with my mediocre dance moves. He actually retargets that mine, that made me upset. Got a couple of decent disruptor shots here though, and his army is just a little bit too small. GG gets called, and I win this game as well. Nice. Very happy to hear. Alright, that's going to be it for today's episode of Road to Rank 1. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hopefully we'll see all of you next time for a new video. Bye bye.